Hello friends, welcome to the Night Watchman channel. Today I'm going to tell you a terrifying and thrilling creepy horror story that will make you feel the chill of fear. If you enjoy my story, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can feel your love and support through your likes and subscriptions. I was 11 the year it happened. It was 2013 and my family had just moved to a town called Mill Creek, Ohio. One of those faded, half-forgotten places where the sky always seemed gray and the only thing that ever smelled alive was diesel. The town sat between a rusted railroad line and an old river that no one swam in anymore. Most people worked at the paper plant or the truck stop diner. When we moved there, my parents said it was a fresh start. But the house we found, it didn't feel like a start. It felt like an ending. It was a sagging two-story house on the edge of town, tucked behind a row of dead oak trees. The rent was cheap. Too cheap. And my dad, Frank, said that was reason enough to take it. He'd just been laid off from a construction job in Dayton. My mom, Rachel, found part-time work at a 24-hour convenience store off Route 19. There were 5 of us. Me, Eli, 11 at the time. My sister Hannah, 15, and already tired of the world. My little brother Noah, 6 and too curious for his own good. And of course, Mom and Dad. We moved in during the middle of winter. I remember the air biting through my gloves as we carried boxes in, my breath fogging in the living room as I set down my backpack. There was a smell in that house, musty, like something damp and old had been sealed away for too long. The place had a few quirks, as my mom put it. The floorboards creaked like bones. The kitchen light flickered no matter how many times you replaced the bulb. And the basement, God, the basement. The floor wasn't concrete, it was packed dirt. The walls were bare stone, rough and cold. There was a single pull-string bulb hanging from the ceiling that barely lit the first few steps, and on the outside of the door was a thick iron bolt, the kind that locked from the outside. Guess they didn't want kids falling in, my dad had said, brushing it off. But I remember thinking, no one locks a basement from the outside to keep people out. They lock it to keep something in. We settled into Mill Creek as best we could. My mom worked nights, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., while Dad took shifts at a warehouse just outside town. That meant Hannah babysat most nights. She hated it, but she did it anyway. We didn't know anyone back then. The closest thing to civilization was a 24-hour McDonald's near the main road. It became our everything. Food, warmth, Wi-Fi. Hannah got a job there about a month after we moved in. She'd walk home after her shift, usually around midnight. She'd come in smelling like fryer grease and cheap coffee, dump her backpack on the table, and collapse on the couch. That's how I remember her. Half asleep, still in uniform, with a red visor tossed somewhere on the floor. It was late February when things started to feel wrong. It began small. Footsteps when everyone was asleep, a sound like whispering under the floorboards. Once Noah's toy car rolled out of the hallway and into the kitchen, even though he was upstairs with me. Probably just mice, Dad said. But it wasn't. The night everything changed was a Friday. Mom was at work, Dad had gone to bed early, and Hannah was on the couch watching TV after her shift. I was supposed to be asleep, but I'd woken up needing to pee. It must have been around 3 in the morning. I tried to ignore it, pulling the blanket tighter, but my bladder won. I sighed, got up, and slipped out of bed. The hallway was dark except for the faint glow of the nightlight near the stairs. Our bathroom was downstairs, past the kitchen, past the big uncovered window that looked out onto the backyard. I hated that window. Every night I walked by it, I imagined someone standing there, just outside the glass, watching. I was halfway across the kitchen when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. It was soft, deliberate, not a branch. Not the house settling. I froze. The sound came again, closer this time, against the glass. And then I saw him. A man stood outside the window, his face pressed to the glass. His hair was tangled, his beard patchy and gray. His clothes looked filthy, stiff from dirt. He was cupping his hands to peer inside. His eyes. That's what I remember most. Wide, searching, not curious, focused, like he knew me. My heart went cold. I crouched behind the counter, my breath shaking. I waited for him to move, but he didn't. He just stared. Then came the sound that still haunts me, the click of the back door unlocking. He had a key. The door creaked open, slow, careful, like he didn't want to wake anyone. He stepped inside, shut the door behind him, and for a moment, everything was silent again. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight past the kitchen table, past the fridge, and unbolted the basement door. Then, without looking around, he went down. I couldn't move. My body refused. I just stood there, shaking, my knees pressed to my chest. Finally, I crawled, literally crawled, across the floor to Hannah. I shook her shoulder. "Hannah," I whispered. She groaned, eyes half open. There's someone in the house." She blinked, confused. "What?" "In the basement," I said. "He had a key." That woke her up fast. She sat up, eyes wide. "What are you talking about?" Before I could answer, and we heard it. Footsteps, coming up from the basement. Hannah grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the stairs. "Dad!" she shouted. We ran. I tripped on the top step, catching myself just before I fell. Dad's door flew open. "What the hell's going on?" "There's someone," Hannah started. But before she could finish, the basement door slammed open downstairs. A figure emerged, tall, hunched, wearing a black coat. Dad didn't think. He charged down the stairs. "Hey, get out of my house!" The man didn't run. He just turned, calm, almost casual. And then he smiled. Dad tackled him hard and they both hit the floor. I heard the crash of something breaking. Glass, maybe a table. Mom came through the front door just then. Her shift must have ended early. And when she saw the fight, she screamed, "Frank!" The man fought like an animal, thrashing, snarling. Dad tried to hold him down, but he was strong, unnaturally strong. I remember Hannah grabbing the phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher's voice crackled. "911, what's your emergency?" "There's a man in our house. He broke in. My dad's." But before she could finish, the man shoved Dad off and lunged toward the kitchen. Mom grabbed a knife from the counter. "Don't move!" she shouted. The man froze, just for a second. His eyes locked on her. Then he took one slow step forward. "I said don't..." She stabbed him, right in the shoulder. He screamed, not like a human scream, more like an animal wounded to its core. He stumbled back, fell, hit the floor hard. Dad was on him in seconds, pinning his arms. Sirens wailed in the distance. When the police burst through the door, the man was still alive, breathing heavy, eyes wide open and empty. They dragged him out on a stretcher, and that was it. Or so we thought. They said his fingerprints didn't match any records. No ID, no address, no family. But the strangest thing, he had a key. Our key, an exact copy of the one Dad changed when we moved in. The police searched the basement. What they found made everyone sick. A sleeping bag, empty water bottles, candy wrappers, and one crumpled McDonald's receipt from 3 days earlier, from the same restaurant where Hannah worked. He'd been living down there for weeks, watching, listening, waiting. We left Mill Creek the next week. Mom quit her job. Dad never talked about that night again. And Hannah, she couldn't sleep for months. I still dream about that man sometimes. The sound of the lock turning, the way he moved like he'd done it before, like he belonged there. I don't know how he got that key. I don't want to know. But every night before I go to bed, I check the doors. Twice. And I never ever walk past uncovered windows after dark. Because once someone's been inside your home, it never feels like your home again. Story 2. My name's Ethan Cole, and this happened when I was 17. Back then, life felt like a series of small storms. Arguments with my mom, silent dinners, the pressure of senior year stacking up like bad debt. I was the kind of kid who kept things bottled up until they started leaking out sideways. Through sarcasm, through silence, through staying out too late just to avoid going home. It was a Saturday in early September, the kind that smelled like fading summer and the first whisper of autumn. The air was heavy, sticky, full of leftover heat from August. I'd just gotten out of rehearsal for the school play. Our town of all things. My role? a nameless extra who stands in the background pretending to enjoy a wedding scene. My friend Ryan, who played the lead, was waiting outside leaning against his beat-up silver Corolla, scrolling through his phone. "Yo," he said, squinting at me through the sun. "You want to get food?" "I'm starving." "Sure, McDonald's," I said automatically. He smirked. "When am I not down for McDonald's?" I smiled faintly. That was Ryan. Loud, funny, overconfident. The type of guy who could turn any boring moment into chaos. I envied him for that. He made life look easy. We hopped in his car, windows cracked, music blasting, some old pop-punk band I didn't even like. He drummed on the steering wheel, singing out of tune, while I let the wind slap my face and tried not to think about the argument I'd had with my mom that morning. She told me I was floating through life, whatever that meant. We drove down Pinehurst Avenue, a quiet stretch lined with gas stations, half-empty strip malls, and the glowing golden arches ahead. That McDonald's had been around forever. Everyone in Bristol Heights had been there at least once, after football games, after dates, after curfew. It was where people went when they had nowhere else to go. It didn't feel dangerous, not yet. Inside, the air was cool, humming with the low buzz of the AC and fryer oil. A few families were eating, a couple of teens by the window were laughing over milkshakes, and a guy in a construction vest was standing near the counter, waiting for his order. Ryan cracked his knuckles. "I'm thinking double cheeseburger, large fries, and an Oreo McFlurry." "You? Just nuggets," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "Just nuggets?" "You okay, man?" I shrugged. "Didn't sleep much." "Bro, you gotta stop thinking so hard about life. Just eat and vibe." That was Ryan's answer for everything? Eat and vibe. As we stepped into line, I noticed a man a few feet away. Maybe mid-20s. Tall, lanky, wearing a faded navy hoodie despite the heat. He had a plastic grocery bag hanging from one hand, the kind that looked half full, and his other hand was buried deep in his pocket. His skin was pale, his eyes dark, and he kept glancing around, not at the menu, not at the employees, but at people. His eyes flicked to me for a second too long, then to Ryan, then around the restaurant again. It wasn't the usual kind of look strangers give. It was searching, measuring. A faint chill crawled up my arms. Ryan leaned toward me. "You good?" "Yeah," I said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just tired." The man in the hoodie stepped out of line suddenly and walked toward the side door by the dining area. He pushed it open halfway, looked back inside like he was checking something, then slipped out. Ryan frowned. "Weird." "Yeah," we ordered. 2 combos, a McFlurry, and a Sprite. As the cashier handed us our tray, Ryan pointed toward the far booth near that same side door. "There." Corner seat. Best fries to privacy ratio. I hesitated, glancing at the door. But I didn't want to seem paranoid, so I followed. Ryan slid into the booth facing away from the parking lot, and I sat opposite him, my back near the wall. Outside, the sun was glaring off the glass, making it hard to see. "So," Ryan said between bites, "you ever gonna tell me what's going on with you lately? You've been all quiet and mysterious. It's starting to mess with my vibe." I laughed weakly. "Just, stuff at home." "Parents?" "Yeah. My mom mostly." He nodded knowingly. "Parents always think they know your life better than you do." "Dude, my dad still calls me Bud like I'm 12. I smiled, feeling a little lighter. For a few minutes, it felt normal. Just 2 friends, bad food, dumb jokes. Then I looked up and froze. Outside the window, maybe 10 feet away, the man in the hoodie was standing there. He wasn't walking by. He wasn't on his phone. He was just standing, staring straight at Ryan through the glass. My breath caught in my throat. His face was slack, expressionless. His eyes looked glassy, unfocused, but his body still tense, like an animal waiting to pounce. The grocery bag was slung over his shoulder now, and through the opening of his hoodie, something dark and metallic glinted near his hip. A handle, a machete handle. My mouth went dry. "Ryan," I whispered, "don't turn around." He froze mid-bite. "What?" "Don't turn around." He looked at me, confused, the fry halfway to his mouth. "Why?" There's a guy outside. He's watching us. I think he has a weapon. Ryan's smile faltered. His hand lowered slowly. You serious? I nodded. He swallowed hard. What do we do? I didn't know. My mind went blank, every sound in the restaurant fading until I could only hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears. The man didn't blink, didn't move, just stared. After what felt like a full minute, he turned, not quickly, slowly, deliberately, and walked out of view toward the corner of the building. Ryan turned around fast, his head darting side to side. Where is he? Gone, I said. But I didn't believe it. He reappeared seconds later, at a different window farther down, his face pressed close to the glass, fogging it with his breath. The same look, the same bag, the same machete handle. Ryan swore under his breath. We should tell someone. I nodded, got up, and walked to the counter. The young cashier looked up, bored. Hey, I whispered. There's a man outside watching people. He has a weapon. You should call the police. His expression didn't change much. Okay, I'll tell my manager. I went back to the booth. They're calling someone, I lied. Ryan's eyes darted toward the window again. Dude, he's still there. I forced myself to think. I needed proof, something they couldn't ignore. I picked up my phone, turned the camera on, and aimed it toward Ryan. Smile, I said quietly. What? Just do it. He made a confused grin, and I snapped the photo, angled just right so the man in the background was clear, the machete handle visible. Got him. I walked over to a woman sitting nearby with her 2 kids. My voice shook. Ma'am, there's someone outside with a weapon. He's been staring through the windows. She blinked, then looked. Her face went pale. She gathered her children, whispering urgently. The room's energy changed fast. Low murmurs, chairs scraping, heads turning. And then, he was gone again. The side door creaked. Ryan whispered, You see him? I scanned the windows. Nothing. My chest felt tight, every breath shallow. Then I saw him. He stepped from behind the trash enclosure by the drive-thru, eyes locked on us again, walking straight toward the side door. Ethan, Ryan breathed. He's coming here. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The ring felt endless. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man outside the McDonald's on Pinehurst. He has a machete. He's been watching people through the windows. Please hurry. The dispatcher asked for a description. I gave it, my voice trembling. She told me to stay inside, stay calm. Officers were on the way. By then, the man was almost at the door. He stopped just a few feet from it, staring at us through the glass one last time. Then just as slowly as he'd appeared, he turned, walked to a red mountain bike leaning by the curb, climbed on and pedaled away. Calm, steady, deliberate. I watched until he vanished behind the AutoZone next door. The police arrived 12 minutes later. They took my statement, looked at the photo, and said the words that made my stomach twist. He hasn't technically committed a crime. Unless he brandished the weapon or tried to enter the building, there's not much we can do. They searched the area anyway. They didn't find him. When they told us it was safe to leave, Ryan and I sat in silence in his car. The McFlurry had melted into a gray puddle. The fries were cold. Finally, Ryan said, Dude, what the hell was that? I laughed, but it came out hollow. I don't know. We drove home quietly. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting to see that red bike trailing behind us. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't stop replaying his stare, how focused it was, like he'd chosen us. It's been over a year since that day. I still have the photo. Sometimes I show it to friends when the night feels too calm. The machete handle, the pale face, the empty eyes. No one ever caught him. And sometimes when I'm driving late at night and stop at a red light, I catch myself looking into the windows of the restaurants around me just to make sure no one's looking back. Story 3, I was 11 the year it happened. Back then I lived in the southern edge of Bakersfield, California. The kind of neighborhood where every house looked tired, every mailbox leaned, and the streetlights buzzed louder than the traffic. We lived in a faded beige duplex with peeling paint and an old palm tree out front that dropped dead fronds like knives. My mom worked nights at the hospital, my stepdad was a mechanic, And my older brother, Mateo, was 13, smart, sarcastic, and just dangerous enough to make you want to follow him everywhere. He wasn't just my brother, he was my hero. He always seemed to know things: how to fix a bike chain, how to talk his way out of trouble, how to make the boring days feel like adventures. So when he said he wanted to walk down to the new McDonald's on Highland and Riverbend, I didn't even hesitate. It was early August, a Saturday that felt like the world was melting. The kind of heat that sticks to your skin and makes the air shimmer. Mom was asleep. The house was silent except for the drone of a fan spinning slow circles. Mateo nudged me with his elbow. "Come on, I'm starving." "Let's go get fries. Maybe a McFlurry if we split it." I grinned. "You think Mom will get mad?" "She'll be asleep for another 3 hours. We'll be back before she even dreams about yelling." That was all it took. We grabbed a few crumpled dollar bills from the kitchen counter, the emergency snack fund, and headed out. The streets were empty, just heat and the smell of dry grass. We cut through side lots, crossed behind a row of auto shops, and that's when I saw it: the warehouse. It sat half a block behind an old grocery store, fenced off with bent chain link and faded warning signs that flapped in the wind. The walls were scorched in spots, as if something had burned there years ago. Broken windows gaped like missing teeth. Even from a distance, the air around it felt wrong. Too still, too heavy. Mateo slowed down. "Don't look too long," he muttered. "Why?" He shrugged but didn't meet my eyes. "Just don't." "My friend Oscar said the place is cursed," I laughed. "You actually believe that?" "I don't know. He said his cousin went in there once with some guys. Dared each other to stay the night. They found his shoes by the door the next morning, but not him." "That's just a story," I said, kicking a rock. Mateo didn't argue. He just kept walking. But every few seconds, I caught him glancing over his shoulder, like the warehouse might start moving if he looked away too long. We reached McDonald's a few minutes later. The place had been rebuilt: clean glass, bright yellow arches, brand new booths that still smelled like plastic. The air conditioning hit me like heaven. Mateo ordered a cheeseburger combo and a McFlurry to share. We took the booth near the window, the one that faced the street, and beyond it, that warehouse. For a while, everything was normal. The fries were perfect, the McFlurry cold enough to give me brain freeze, and Mateo was laughing at something dumb I said. But then he froze, mid-laugh, eyes fixed out the window. "What?" I asked, still chewing. He didn't answer, just pointed. Across the street, behind the fence, in one of the upper windows of the warehouse, something moved. At first I thought it was just a shadow, but then it shifted again, slow and deliberate. A shape. No, two shapes, standing side by side. "Probably just pigeons," I whispered, though my voice cracked. "Those aren't birds," Mateo said, voice low. The figures were too big. Their bodies looked wrong. Swollen, round, like they were wrapped in melted rubber. Their arms hung at odd angles, and their faces, God, their faces weren't right. The skin looked cracked and glossy, like tar had dried over bone. Their mouths hung open too wide, and deep inside I could see rows of teeth, uneven and sharp. And their eyes glowed, not like light reflecting. They glowed, faint and red, pulsing like dying coals. One of them tilted its head, slow and unnatural, and I swear it smiled. My chest locked up. The fries fell from my hand. Mateo grabbed my arm. "We're leaving." We walked fast. Didn't run, not until we hit the corner. And when we did, I didn't look back. For the rest of the walk home, neither of us spoke. My throat felt tight, and the air tasted like metal. When we got inside, Mateo locked the door. Not just the handle, the chain too. That night I heard him whispering in our shared room. "You saw them too, right?" "Yeah," I said. He nodded in the dark. "Then don't talk about it again." We never did. Years passed. I turned 16, then 20. Mateo enlisted in the Navy and moved away. I got a job at a tire shop near Fresno, moved into a small apartment, and tried not to think about that day. But I never forgot. It wasn't until last year, the night before Thanksgiving, that I saw my brother again. He came down from Washington to visit Mom. We all sat around the kitchen table laughing, eating too much pie. After dinner, when everyone else was asleep, we ended up on the porch, just the two of us, a couple of beers between us. He was quiet, staring down the street. "You know they tore down that old warehouse?" he said. I froze. "Yeah? Last year. Guy who bought the property said the demolition crew wouldn't go near it. First night they tried, one of the workers fell from the scaffolding. Broke his neck." He paused. "They found him facing the wrong way. Like something twisted him before he hit the ground." I felt the air go cold. Mateo rubbed his hands together. "They say the cops found something too. A message on the wall in one of the rooms. Looked burned in. What did it say?" He hesitated. "Still watching." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, while everyone was still snoring, I drove out to Highland and Riverbend. The McDonald's was still there. Bigger now, remodeled again, glowing in the morning light. But the warehouse was gone. Just an empty lot behind a chain-link fence. Or at least, I thought it was empty. When I pulled up to the light, I looked toward where the windows used to be. The glass, the cracked walls, all gone. But in the reflection of the McDonald's window across the street, for just a second, I saw them. Two dark shapes standing where the building used to be, still, watching. The light turned green. I drove. I didn't look back. But even now, every time I pass a McDonald's at night, if the lights hit the windows just right, I swear I see a flicker. Two shadows side by side. And my stomach drops like I'm 11 again. Sitting in that booth, fries in my hand, air conditioning on my face, and those red eyes staring right at me. Hello friends, I hope you're enjoying this story. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button so you can get a new story every day. Story 4. I never thought flipping burgers could change the way I looked at the world, but it did. My name's Isabel Moore, Izzy to most, and this happened the summer after I graduated high school. I lived in a small suburb outside Bloomington, Illinois, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and the loudest thing at night is the hum of the highway in the distance. When you're 18, the world feels both too big and too small at the same time. I didn't have college plans figured out yet, so I picked up a part-time job at the local McDonald's off Main and Jefferson. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and at that age, steady felt good enough. My parents were divorced, my mom worked nights at the hospital, and my younger brother spent most evenings gaming in his room. So for me, McDonald's became this weird in-between place, not quite home, not quite freedom, but somewhere in the middle. The people I worked with made it easier. There was Jordan, the grill guy, tall, sarcastic, and always smelling faintly of fries. Tina, our drive-through queen, a nursing student who could take 5 orders at once without breaking a sweat. And then there was our shift manager, Mr. Harris. Mid-40s, ex-military, ran the place like a tight ship, but treated everyone like his own kids. That Saturday night in July started like any other. "Izzy, you mind covering front lobby tonight?" Mr. Harris asked, tossing me a rag. "Sure," I said, tying my hair up, "as long as I don't have to do another ice cream machine deep clean." He smirked. "No promises." It was one of those humid Midwestern nights where the air feels thick enough to chew. The dinner rush had ended, and the parking lot outside was quiet except for the buzz of streetlights and the occasional rumble of a passing car. The clock read 10:15 p.m. Lobby closed at 11. Drive-through stayed open until midnight. Tina was in the back joking with Jordan as he scraped the grill, and I was wiping down tables near the front windows. Every time I cleaned that area, I'd catch my reflection in the glass. Pale face under the yellow lights, eyes half tired. There was something unsettling about that reflection sometimes. Maybe because you could also see the faint glow of the parking lot behind it, blurring into your own image like something was standing right behind you. At 10:43, a middle-aged man and his daughter came in for one last meal. Chicken nuggets and a caramel sundae. They left in a hurry, leaving their fries half-eaten. Nothing unusual. When I turned back to the window, that's when I saw her. She was standing outside right up against the glass. A woman, maybe in her late 40s, wearing an old-fashioned beige coat that looked way too warm for summer. Her hair was dark, tangled, and she had this expression, not angry, not sad, just blank. At first I thought maybe she needed help. We had a few homeless people come by sometimes, looking for water or leftovers. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to the door. "Sorry, ma'am, lobby's closed," I said through the glass, pointing at the drive-through sign. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. "Maybe she didn't hear you," Jordan called from behind me, half joking. "She's close enough to fog up the glass," I said, forcing a laugh. Mr. Harris came out of the back office, frowning. "Everything okay?" "Someone's outside," I said. "She's just standing there." He peered through the window. "Probably waiting on a ride." "Ignore it. We're almost done here." I nodded, tried to brush it off. But something about her eyes, like she was looking through me instead of at me, sent a cold ripple through my stomach. By 10:55, she was still there. Only now. There were two of them. Same coat, same posture, standing side by side, motionless. "Okay, that's officially creepy," Tina said, leaning over the counter. "Twins or something?" "They're not moving," Jordan said quietly. "You sure they're not mannequins?" Mr. Harris sighed, rubbing his temples. "You three, finish closing the front. I'll handle this." He went to the door, unlocked it just enough to open it an inch. "Ladies, lobby's closed. If you need to order, drive-thru's still open." They didn't respond. One of them tilted her head, slow like her neck was stiff. Then the other one smiled, but not a normal smile. Too wide, too long, like someone pulling at her cheeks from the inside. Mr. Harris stepped back immediately and locked the door. "We're done here," he said, his voice low. "Everyone back to the kitchen." It should have ended there. It didn't. At 11:07, just as I was stacking chairs, I heard it. Click. The front door lock. Turning. On its own. I froze. "Mr. Harrod, did you just—" He looked up from the register. "What?" Before I could finish, the door swung open. Both women stepped inside. No sound, no creak. Just the faint tap of heels on tile. Their coats brushed against the counter as they walked in. Identical steps, synchronized, like they were sharing one mind. "Ma'am, you can't be in here," Mr. Harris said firmly, stepping forward. "Lobby's closed." The woman on the left leaned closer. "You saw us first," she whispered, voice dry and low like paper tearing. I felt my throat tighten. "What did you say?" I stammered. Her eyes flicked to me. "You shouldn't have looked." The lights flickered. Tina screamed. Jordan dropped the spatula he was holding. Then everything went black. It wasn't just a power outage. It was dead silence. Even the fryers stopped buzzing. The air conditioning cut off. I could hear someone breathing next to me. Fast, shallow. "Tina." Then Mr. Harris's voice, low and controlled. "Everyone stay calm. Emergency lights will kick in." A few seconds later, a faint red glow filled the room. The backup lights near the back hallway. That's when I saw it. The two women were gone. But in their place, near the soda machine, something else stood there. At first I thought it was a person crouched down, but then it started to rise. Its skin glistened under the dim red light. Raw, like it had been peeled. No whites in its eyes, just black. It tilted its head at me, that same slow, unnatural motion. "Run!" Mr. Harris shouted. We bolted for the back. Jordan yanked open the freezer door, and we all piled inside. Me, Tina, Jordan, and Mr. Harris. He slammed it shut, breathing hard. "What the hell was that?" Tina sobbed. "No idea," he said. "We wait until it's gone." Minutes passed, or maybe hours. It was hard to tell. We could hear something moving outside, slow footsteps, then a faint melody playing through the ceiling speakers. The McDonald's jingle, warped and dragging like a broken record. "Ba-da, ba-ba-ba." Tina covered her ears and whispered, "Make it stop." When the sound finally faded, Mr. Harris cracked the door open. The restaurant was empty, lights back on, everything spotless. No women, no shadow figure. But written across the touchscreen kiosk near the front counter, in thick streaks of ketchup, were the words, "She opened the curtain." Now we walk with her. Mr. Harris called the police. They found nothing. Cameras showed a static glitch from 11:04 to 11:21. No intruders, no power issue, Just nothing. We all quit the next day. Corporate sent a cleanup crew, said it was a malfunction, told us to keep quiet for safety reasons. It's been 10 years since that night. The old McDonald's is gone now, replaced by a Dunkin' and a vape shop. But every time I drive past that corner, I still see it in my head. That dim lobby, that reflection in the glass. Those two women standing outside waiting. Last week I was driving home late when I saw something that made my stomach drop. Two figures by the window of the Dunkin', standing side by side, both in beige coats, both smiling. Story 5. I was 19 when it happened. My name's Hannah Keller, and back in 2011, I worked part-time at a McDonald's off Route 46 in a quiet town called Willow Creek, Washington. It wasn't much, a small town surrounded by pine trees, a gas station across the street, and a stretch of empty road that felt longer at night than it did in the day. I took the job during my first semester of community college. I needed the money for gas, books, and honestly, just to feel like I was moving forward after my dad passed the year before. He'd worked construction, long hours, little sleep, always smelling like sawdust and cheap coffee. After the accident, it was just me and my mom. She picked up extra cleaning jobs to keep us afloat, and I promised I'd do my part. That's how I ended up behind a greasy counter under flickering fluorescent lights that never quite stopped buzzing. It was supposed to be a normal closing shift, just another Friday night. I remember saying those exact words out loud as I clocked in. Easy night, right? I grinned at my coworker, Ben, a tall, goofy guy with a mop of curly hair. Yeah, unless someone spills a milkshake again, he said, holding up the mop like a weapon. Our manager, Denise, overheard and laughed from behind the register. Don't jinx it, Keller. Fridays always find a way to go to hell. She wasn't wrong. The crew that night was small. Just me, Ben, Denise, and Carla, who handled drive-through. Outside, the temperature had dropped below freezing. The wind howled against the glass doors, and every time someone came in, the air inside shifted, like the warmth tried to escape with them. I remember it vividly because of how ordinary it all was at first. The hum of the fryers, the faint sound of the radio playing old rock songs, the rhythmic beep of the fryer timer. Denise was counting the register, Ben was cleaning the soda machine, and I was restocking napkins near the condiment bar. That's when the door opened. It was around 8:30 p.m. Two women walked in, and even before I saw their faces, something felt wrong. They were dressed in long, dark gray dresses that brushed the floor, the kind of fabric that looked heavy and old-fashioned, like something out of a black and white photo. The taller one had her hair pinned up neatly. The other had hers braided over her shoulder. Their skin was so pale it looked like it reflected the fluorescent light. They didn't say a word. I blinked, expecting Denise to greet them, but she froze mid-count, her pen hanging in the air. Welcome to McDonald's, I said, forcing a smile. Dine in or take out? Neither of them answered. They just stood by the entrance, eyes fixed on something past the counter, like they weren't really looking at us, but through us. Ben nudged me. Maybe they're part of that historical thing down at the museum, he whispered. You know, the reenactment? Maybe, I said, but my voice didn't sound convinced. Denise finally stepped forward. Can I help you, ladies? She asked, polite but cautious. The woman with the braid tilted her head slightly, her voice calm and almost measured. Is the manager present? That's me, Denise said. What's this about? The taller one smiled faintly. We've come to collect what was promised. Denise frowned. I'm sorry, what? Neither of them responded. They turned at the same time, like synchronized, and started walking toward the hallway leading to the back rooms. That hallway ended in a locked door, the old party room. No one used it anymore because of maintenance issues. That's what corporate said, but rumor among staff was that it had a leak that caused black mold in the ceiling tiles. The room had been sealed off for months. Hey, that area's off limits, Denise called out. The women didn't stop. I remember hearing Ben whisper, Are their shoes not making any sound? He was right. Not a single footstep echoed on the tile. Carla, who just handed out an order at the drive-thru, leaned out from the window station. Yo, who's creeping in the back? Denise motioned to us. Come on. We followed the women down the narrow hallway. The lights buzzed louder there, flickering once, twice. The air grew colder. I could see my breath even though the heaters were still running up front. When they reached the party room door, locked with a heavy chain and padlock, the one with the braid simply lifted her hand. There was a faint metallic click. The lock opened by itself. My stomach dropped. The door creaked open, revealing darkness inside. The air that came out was freezing, carrying the smell of old wood and mildew. "Don't go in there," Ben muttered, but the women already had. They stepped inside, their figures blending into the shadows. Denise hesitated, then followed, holding her phone flashlight. I went after her, too scared to stay behind but too curious to stop myself. The light cut through dust. The party room looked worse than I remembered. Balloon decals peeling from the walls, old happy birthday banners, half torn. The mural of Ronald McDonald on the far wall looked warped, like the paint had melted down his smile. And that's when I saw them, standing side by side facing the wall. Their reflections didn't appear in the broken glass of the menu display nearby. Denise's voice trembled. "Who are you?" "What do you want?" The woman with the braid turned her head slightly. "You were notified," she said, her tone still eerily calm. "This land owes what was promised." Then both of them vanished. No noise, no flash. Just gone. Denise screamed and stumbled backward, dropping her phone. The flashlight spun across the floor, hitting the mural. For a split second, I swear I saw faint scorch marks beneath the paint, like something had once burned there. We shut down early that night. Denise called the district manager, who told her to secure the premises and not say a word to customers. I stayed behind until my mom came to pick me up. I didn't want to walk outside alone. The next morning, Carla came in looking pale. "You know those dresses," she said. "I saw them before." She pulled out a small stack of old photos she'd found in the storage closet, a box labeled Original Build. Inside were black and white pictures of two women standing in front of a brick building that definitely wasn't a McDonald's. One was smiling faintly, the other wasn't. The back of the photo read, "The Blythe Sisters, Hotel Willow, 1911. Denise's jaw tightened. What the hell is Hotel Willow? She looked it up on her laptop. Turned out the McDonald's was built over the remains of a hotel that burned down in 1912. Two sisters, Eleanor and Margaret Blythe, had owned it. The article said, "Fire consumes Willow Hotel. Two sisters perish in dispute over unpaid insurance." Their claim had been denied by a man named Harold Grayson. I didn't think much of it until Denise whispered, "The Grayson family owns this property. They've leased it to McDonald's since the 80s. No one spoke for a long time. 3 days later, the district manager arrived with two men from corporate. They sealed the party room permanently, welded the door shut, and said nothing to anyone. I quit 2 months later. I tried to move on, to tell myself it was stress or a trick of the lights. But every so often, I dream about them. Those two women standing in that dark room, staring through me with eyes that seemed both calm and furious. Then last winter, I went back to Willow Creek to visit my mom. Around 3 a.m., I woke up and saw her standing by the window. "Mom," I whispered. She didn't move. "They're outside," she said quietly. I froze. "Who?" She turned to me, her eyes glistening with fear. "The women. They're waiting." I looked out the window, and though I saw nothing, the air outside shimmered, like heat rising off asphalt, except it was freezing. A whisper echoed faintly in my head. "Where is what was promised?" I don't work there anymore, but sometimes when I drive past that McDonald's, I still feel that drop in temperature. And every time I see the "party room closed for renovation" sign still hanging there after all these years, I know they're not finished, because some debts don't die with time. They wait. Story 6, I was 10 years old when it happened, back in the fall of 2015. My name's Evan Carter, and that was the year I learned what real fear felt like. Not the kind you get from horror movies or jump scares, but the kind that lingers in your bones long after the lights come back on. Back then, I lived in a small suburban town called Ridgeview, Illinois. It was quiet, safe, one of those places where everyone waved at each other from their driveways, and the loudest thing at night was a train passing in the distance. My mom worked as a nurse at the local clinic, and my dad was a mechanic. I was their only kid, a little shy, bookish, and obsessed with Pokemon and Lego sets. Life was simple, Predictable, until that October. That was around the time when all those Slender Man stories were still floating around the internet, creepy drawings, YouTube videos, horror games. Every kid in my class at Oakwood Elementary talked about him. We'd whisper about it during lunch, daring each other to say his name in the bathroom mirror or go near the woods after dark. I didn't believe any of it, not really. I liked ghost stories, sure, but I never thought they could touch real life. That changed the weekend my mom took me to the new McDonald's off Highway 43. It had just opened that summer. Sleek, modern, bright red panels on the outside. Everyone in Ridgeview was talking about it because it had one of those indoor play areas with a jungle gym and slides that reached almost to the ceiling. My dad was working the late shift that Saturday, so it was just me and Mom. I still remember that day clearly. The air was cool and smelled like rain. The parking lot shimmered with puddles, reflecting the glowing golden arches above us. Inside, it was warm and busy, kids laughing, the sound of fryers hissing, the beeps of the registers, the kind of normal noise that makes you feel safe. Mom ordered me a Happy Meal, nuggets and a Sprite, and got herself a coffee. We found a booth by the window, near the corner. I remember the glass was fogged from the warmth inside clashing with the chilly air outside. I wiped a small circle clear with my sleeve so I could watch the clouds. They were thick, gray, rolling in like smoke. "Looks like it's gonna rain soon," Mom said, scrolling through her phone. "Yeah," I said, not really paying attention. My eyes drifted toward the far corner of the restaurant. That's when I saw him. He was sitting alone, near the restrooms. A tall man, too tall, maybe 6'6" or more, wearing a long black coat that reached his ankles. His hat, a dark fedora, shadowed most of his face. He wasn't eating, not even drinking, just sitting there, hands folded, staring. At first I thought maybe he was just waiting for someone, but minutes passed and he never moved, never blinked. "Mom," I whispered, tugging her sleeve. "That guy's been sitting there forever." She glanced over her shoulder quickly. "Where?" "Over there, by the bathrooms." She looked, frowned slightly, then smiled. "Probably just tired, honey." Some people come in just for the Wi-Fi, I tried to believe that. But when I looked again, I could have sworn he was turned slightly toward us now. His head tilted just enough that it felt like he was watching me. We left a few minutes later when it started to rain. I looked back through the window as we walked to the car. He was still there, still watching. That night I had a dream. In it, I was back in that McDonald's. The lights were dim and flickering, casting weird shadows on the floor. The place was empty, completely silent except for a faint hum from the soda machine. I was standing near the counter holding my Happy Meal box. The little toy inside rattled. Then I saw him again. The man. He was standing in the hallway leading to the bathrooms, his head tilted just like before. But his hat was gone. His coat seemed longer now, his arms even more so. Too long, like they'd been stretched. And where his face should have been, there was nothing. Just smooth, pale skin. "Sir?" I whispered in the dream. My voice echoed off the tiles. He started walking toward me. Slow, deliberate steps. I tried to back away, but my legs wouldn't move. The hum from the soda machine grew louder, then distorted, like static. I turned and ran into the play place, but the slides and tunnels were wrong. Warped. Endless. I crawled into one, hoping to escape, but it just kept going and going until everything went dark. And then I woke up screaming. My room was pitch black except for the red glow of the digital clock, 2:33 a.m. My heart was racing. I climbed out of bed and ran to my parents' room. "Mom," I whispered, shaking her shoulder. "Can I sleep here?" She blinked awake, groggy. "Bad dream?" I nodded. She sighed softly and pulled back the blanket. "All right, honey." "Grab your pillow." I curled up on the floor next to her side of the bed, wrapped in my blanket, still trembling. Her breathing was calm, steady. I started to relax. My eyelids were just beginning to close when it happened. The fire alarm went off. A deafening shriek filled the house, echoing down the hallway. My dad jumped up, half asleep. "What the hell?" He grabbed the flashlight off the nightstand and ran toward the kitchen. Mom followed. I sat up, covering my ears. The alarm blared for almost a full minute, before Dad finally managed to reset it. When they came back, he was shaking his head. No smoke, no fire, oven's off. Everything's fine, he said, still catching his breath. Mom crouched beside me. You okay, sweetheart? I nodded weakly. I dreamed about the tall man again, her brow furrowed. What tall man? The one from McDonald's, I whispered. She looked at Dad, then back at me. It's just a dream, Ev. Sometimes your brain keeps scary things from the day. That's all. I didn't argue. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next day, I refused to leave the house. I spent most of the morning drawing at the kitchen table, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Every time I passed the window, I'd catch myself glancing out, half expecting to see that same figure standing there. Around sunset, I pulled the blinds just to be safe, but as I did, I froze. Across the street, under the flickering lamppost, was a tall silhouette. It was gone the second I blinked. That night, my dad offered to pick up dinner. How about McDonald's? He asked. No, I said too fast. Please, can we go somewhere else? He raised an eyebrow. Why? You love their nuggets. Just not there, okay? He exchanged a look with Mom, but didn't push it. We got Burger King instead. That night, I tried to distract myself with my Nintendo 3DS, playing Mario Kart until my eyes burned. Around midnight, the air in my room turned icy cold. My breath came out in visible puffs. I pulled the blanket tighter. Then the hallway light flicked on by itself. I stared at the strip of light under my door, too scared to move. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, soft, deliberate, getting closer. My throat went dry. The footsteps stopped right outside my room. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The door handle began to turn. I finally managed to shout, "Mom!" The door creaked open an inch, then swung wider on its own. Mom and Dad burst in seconds later, flipping the lights on. The room was empty, no one there. After that night, the strange thing stopped. The alarm never went off again. The lights stayed normal. I started sleeping in my own bed again, though I always kept the hallway light on. Years later in high school, curiosity got the better of me. I looked up that McDonald's, the one off Highway 43. It had closed down in 2018. The official reason was maintenance issues, but the comments on an old local news post said otherwise. Customers reported flickering lights, cold spots, employees quitting suddenly. One comment mentioned a child going missing in the play area for nearly half an hour, found crying under the slide. Another said they saw a tall man in black near the bathroom hallway. No face, no reflection. I never told anyone this, but that night after the dream, the night the alarm went off, I think something followed me home. And sometimes when I wake up late at night, I still feel like he's standing just outside my door, waiting. Story 7. I was 4 years old the first time it happened. My name's Lena Hart, and I grew up in a small town called Maple Grove, Tennessee. A quiet little place where Friday nights meant football games and everyone went to church on Sundays. Back then, our town only had one McDonald's, right off the highway near the old train tracks. It was a place every kid in town knew by heart. Birthday parties, happy meals, the smell of fries that clung to your clothes. It felt safe, familiar. But not everything safe is harmless. My mom, Angela, used to say I was too sensitive for the world. I cried when cartoons got sad, hid under blankets during storms, and couldn't sleep without a nightlight. My dad wasn't around much. He worked nights driving freight trucks across state lines, and when he was home, he mostly slept. So it was usually just me, my mom, and my older brother Eli, who was 12 at the time. That spring, 2006, everything started to change. My mom had just switched to a night shift at a local clinic. Money was tight, and she dropped me off at McDonald's on her way to work so Eli could finish his tutoring next door at a small learning center. It wasn't unusual back then. The McDonald's had a huge indoor play place surrounded by glass walls so parents could watch from the dining area. Staff would keep an eye out. It was the kind of place where everyone assumed nothing bad could ever happen. I wish that were true. The night I first saw him, the sky looked like wet cement, low, heavy clouds pressing down. Rain came in sudden bursts, splattering the parking lot in silver streaks. My mom parked close to the door, unbuckled my car seat, and crouched down in front of me. Mom, okay, sweetheart, just stay inside. Play until Eli's done, all right? Me, you're not staying. Mom, only for a bit. I'll check in before work. Be good. Eli leaned over from the front seat, handing me my little backpack with a juice box and crayons. Eli, don't go in the tunnels if there's nobody else there, okay? It's creepy when it's empty. I'm not scared. I was. But I didn't want him to know that. Inside, the place was nearly empty. The smell of fries and grease hung thick in the air. A teenage boy behind the counter nodded at me without much interest. I kicked off my shoes and stepped into the play structure. The floor mats were sticky, the plastic tunnels fogged over with fingerprints. That's when I heard it. A sound, high and stuttered, like a squeaky toy mixed with static. Pike! I froze halfway through the spiral tube. I looked behind me, nothing. Just the faint reflection of my own scared little face in the plastic window. Then it came again, closer. Peek! Ah! The sound dragged out like it was being pulled through broken speakers. Me. Who's there? No answer. Only a faint creaking sound from the next tunnel, the kind plastic makes when someone crawls through it. Except the sound was coming toward me, fast. Peekaboo! He shot forward, not crawled, shot, face first like he'd been yanked by invisible strings. His face was pale, skin stretched too thin, eyes drawn on, huge and wet-looking, hair like soaked rope. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. I screamed so loud my voice cracked and scrambled backward, tumbling down the slide. My elbow hit the edge of the plastic and I hit the floor hard, gasping. The teenage employee barely looked up. I crawled under a table, shaking until Eli burst in, soaked from the rain. Eli. Lena! What happened? Me. He said peekaboo. That's all I could say. Over and over after that night, things changed. My mom said it was nightmares from the divorce. She took me to a child therapist who talked about stress, imagination, and separation anxiety. None of it helped. I started waking up with nosebleeds. Sometimes I'd wake screaming that peekaboo was in the hallway. My mom would run in, turn on the lights, find nothing. But once she said the air felt colder. Heavy. Eli told me once, months later, that I'd been acting strange too. He said when we drive past dark houses, I'd whisper, "Peekaboo lives there now." I don't remember saying that. Another time I rang the doorbell of an empty house down our street and said, "Peekaboo will open?" My mom found me standing there, smiling at nothing. One night, she let me sleep in her bed because I wouldn't stop crying. I told her peekaboo was watching me from the hallway again. She left the bathroom light on, kissed my forehead, and went to fold laundry in the living room. The light didn't help. The air turned cold, biting. The house went silent. No fridge hum, no ceiling fan, just stillness. Then I saw him, standing in the doorway of the bathroom. Same pale skin, same twitchy movements like his bones didn't fit right under his skin. But this time, he was smiling. A stretched, wrong, human-like grin. "Peekaboo," he whispered. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. He lunged, not like a person, like a puppet being snapped forward. I felt something cold grab my wrist before everything went black. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My mom said I'd been screaming and convulsing when she found me. They thought it was a seizure. It wasn't. We moved 2 months later. My mom said she couldn't take that house anymore. Said she heard things too, breathing from under the floorboards, whispering from vents. She never said Peekaboo's name, but I knew she'd seen him. Once I asked, "Me, did you ever see him?" Mom, "Just once." Me, "What did he do?" Mom, "He smiled." She wouldn't talk about it after that. Years passed, the dreams stopped, the nosebleeds stopped. I grew up, moved away, tried to forget. But last year, on a drive through Tennessee, I saw the sign, McDonald's, exit 17, play place open. It looked smaller now, old and sun-faded. I told myself I'd just stop for a coffee. Closure, maybe. Inside, the air was the same, thick, heavy, humming with that faint smell of plastic and oil. The play place was empty, except for the faint sound of the rain hitting the glass. I sat by the window, coffee in hand, watching the tunnels. The yellow slide, the red spiral, the ball pit that looked shallower than I remembered. Then I heard it, from deep inside the tunnels, muffled and wet. Pick! My cup slipped from my hand. Coffee splattered the table. I didn't turn back. I walked straight out, got in my car, and didn't look behind me once. Sometimes at night, I still hear it. Faint. Somewhere between a whisper and a laugh. When I turn off the lights, I see the shape of the tunnel in my dreams. He's still waiting for someone new to answer. So if you ever hear a voice say, pick, inside a play place, don't answer, because Peekaboo never really leaves. He just finds new kids to play with. Story 8. I wasn't planning on going out that night. It had been raining on and off since morning, the kind of half-hearted drizzle that just makes everything smell like wet asphalt. The air was cool, mid-October in northern Illinois, where fall doesn't so much arrive as it creeps in through the cracks. The sun was long gone by the time the streetlights flickered on, throwing little pools of orange across the cul-de-sac. My name's Emily Carter. I was 16 then, a junior at Fairview High. That Saturday wasn't supposed to be anything special. No parties, no plans, just me, the house, and a mug of hot chocolate. My parents had driven to Rockford to visit my granddad, who'd had a minor stroke a few days earlier. They left around 3 p.m., telling me for the 10th time to keep the doors locked and don't order anything weird online. I remember feeling restless, the kind of restlessness that comes when your brain's quiet, but your thoughts are loud. I'd finished my homework, watched half a true crime docu-series, and was halfway through scrolling TikTok when my phone buzzed. Maya. Massey's Run. Come with us. Please. Me. Nah, too cold. I'm in sweats. Maya. Don't be boring. Cole's driving. We're just grabbing food. Be 20 minutes. Me. McDonald's? Maya. Duh. See you there. That was all it took. The combination of boredom and FOMO. I threw on jeans, my old black hoodie, and a denim jacket. Slipped on sneakers and checked the time. 7:15 p.m. The Fairview McDonald's was maybe a 10-minute walk down Maple Avenue, just past the Walgreens and the Shell gas station. I texted my mom, heading out with Maya and Cole. Be back soon. Love you. She replied with her standard, okay, stay safe, honey. Call me when you get home. The night air bit against my cheeks as I stepped outside. It smelled faintly of wet leaves and car exhaust. The streets were mostly empty, just a few cars humming past, the occasional dog barking in the distance. I walked fast, earbuds in, one playing quietly so I could still hear traffic. The McDonald's on Maple wasn't new, but it was always clean and bright, the kind of place families went after Little League games. When I pushed open the glass door, the warmth and smell of fries hit me instantly. Maya and Cole were already there, sitting in a booth near the window. She waved me over, her curly hair bouncing. Cole had his hoodie up, face buried in his phone. Finally, Maya grinned. We were about to order without you. Wow, betrayal, I said, sliding into the seat. I thought friendship meant waiting in line together. Cole smirked without looking up. Friendship ends when hunger begins. We laughed, ordered our usual, a Big Mac meal for me, chicken nuggets for Maya, 2 double cheeseburgers for Cole, and settled in. It was the kind of easy teenage chaos that felt safe. Fries in the middle of the table, soda cups sweating, music from someone's phone too loud. For a while, everything was normal, until I noticed him. He was standing near the trash bins by the door, a man probably in his late 50s, early 60s. His coat was soaked through, hair matted, and his face had that gray, hollow look you only see in people who've been outside too long. He wasn't panhandling. He was just there, watching. He shuffled a bit closer, his shoes squelched against the tile. When his eyes met mine, I felt a flicker of discomfort, the kind that crawls up the back of your neck. He pointed to my tray. You gonna finish that? I froze. My Big Mac was still in its box, untouched. I was going to take it home, I said awkwardly. He nodded slowly, his voice rough. Just thought I'd ask. Ain't eaten since yesterday. Something in his tone made my chest tighten. Maya reached into her bag, already pulling out her wallet. We can get you something, she said softly. But before she could stand, I said, maybe too sharply, "It's fine, Maya. He can't just come up to people like that." The man blinked. "Didn't mean no harm." "Yeah, well, maybe don't bother customers," I muttered, my words colder than I meant. I don't even know why I said it that way. Maybe I was embarrassed or scared or trying to sound tougher than I felt. An employee noticed him then, a tall guy in a red polo. He came over and told the man he had to leave. The man tried to explain something, but the employee just shook his head, grabbing him lightly by the arm. "Come on, sir. You can't hang around here." The old man stumbled as they guided him out. His shoulder clipped the doorframe. I watched through the glass as he stepped into the rain, coat collar up, head bowed. Maya looked at me. "That was kinda harsh, Em." "He was creeping around," I said, defensive. "It's not my fault." Cole said nothing, just went back to his fries. We stayed another half hour, talking about dumb school stuff, homecoming, our English teacher's weird obsession with Shakespeare, the upcoming football game. By the time we stood to leave, the rain had stopped, leaving the pavement slick and glistening under the streetlights. Cole offered me a ride. "We're heading your way anyway." "I'm fine," I said. "It's literally a 5-minute walk." "You sure?" Maya asked, frowning. "Promise," I said with a small smile. "Go." "I'll text when I'm home." They waved and headed to the parking lot. I pulled my hood up and started down Maple Avenue. That's when I heard it, a sound like a bottle rolling across pavement. I turned. Nothing. Just the empty sidewalk and the quiet hum of a distant car. I kept walking. Faster now. The glow from McDonald's faded behind me, replaced by the dim orange of the street lamps. My reflection flashed across a darkened shop window. Pale face, wide eyes, breath clouding the glass. Then, thunk. Something hard smacked the back of my head. I stumbled forward, grabbing the side of my face. Pain bloomed sharp and hot. When I looked down, a rock, small, wet, dark, rolled to a stop at my feet. My heart thudded. "Who's there?" I shouted. A voice came from the shadows near the alley across the street. Raspy, familiar. "Didn't mean no harm." He stepped into the light. The man from McDonald's. His coat was torn now, his mouth bleeding, a tooth missing. The skin under his eyes was purpled and swollen. "Please," I whispered. "I'm sorry." He smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was stretched too wide, like his face forgot how to do it. "You were real mean," he said softly. "Just wanted food." He started walking toward me. Slow at first, then faster I ran, shoes slapping against the wet pavement, lungs burning, vision blurring. I could hear him behind me. Uneven footsteps, ragged breathing. I cut across a parking lot, almost slipped, turned onto my street. My house was 3 houses down, just 3. I reached the porch, keys trembling in my hand. The lock jammed once, twice. Then, click, I slammed the door shut and threw the deadbolt. My chest heaved. The whole house felt too quiet, like the silence itself was listening. I called my mom, barely able to speak. He followed me. He hit me. Please come home." They were back within an hour. The police came too. Flashlights swept the street. Officers took my statement and a medic checked my head. "Minor concussion," they said. "You'll be okay," but they never found him. Not that night, not ever. The security footage from McDonald's showed him leaving at 7:42 p.m. After that, nothing. No sign of him anywhere. For years, I tried to convince myself it was just one of those random things. A horrible coincidence. A moment of bad luck. But sometimes, late at night, when I walk home from the train station, I still catch myself glancing into alleys, scanning doorways, half expecting to see those hollow eyes again. I live in Chicago now, 30 years old, working at a marketing firm, engaged to a man who still doesn't understand why I cross the street when a homeless person approaches. But I do, because I remember what it felt like to say something cruel, something so small, and watch it twist into something monstrous. Now, when I see someone hungry, I buy them a meal. Always. Not out of guilt, out of fear. Because sometimes cruelty doesn't stay in the past. Sometimes it finds its way back. Friends, be sure to tell in the comments which story you like the most, and don't forget to subscribe and like.